Have you ever noticed how some children can't seem to leave their parents' side? Not even for a moment? How they panic when their mother is out of sight? How they cry hysterically at the school door? How they seem unable to play alone, to sleep in their own beds, to exist without the constant presence of an adult? You might think it's just a phase, that it's normal, that the child just needs time to mature. But what if I told you that this excessive attachment isn't a natural part of childhood? What if I told you that it's created, nurtured, and cultivated by the parents themselves, through simple mistakes repeated every day, without anyone even noticing? Depth psychology has revealed something that most people prefer not to see. Pathological attachment in childhood isn't born from the child. It's born from the parent's unresolved shadow. It's born from adult fear projected onto the little one who should be blossoming in autonomy. It's born from generational patterns that no one ever questioned, repeated as if they were absolute truths. When a father or mother carries unhealed emotional wounds, when they live with chronic anxiety, when they've never developed their own inner security, this fragility is passed on. The child feels it. The child absorbs it. The child mirrors it. And what should be a healthy bond transforms into an invisible chain. The child stops being themselves to become the repository for the adult's emotional needs. They stop exploring the world to become the anchor that calms the parent's fear. They stop individuating to become the psychic extension of the one who should be giving them freedom. This is one of the cruelest and most silent dynamics in a family, because it disguises itself as love, because it hides behind protection, because the parents genuinely believe they are doing what's best for the child, when in reality, they are preventing them from becoming who they truly are. Scholars of depth psychology have observed this for decades. They've seen how parents' unconscious patterns shape their children's personalities, how maternal anxiety becomes the child's fear, how paternal insecurity becomes the child's emotional dependence, how the need for control transforms into suffocating attachment. And the scariest part? Most parents repeat these mistakes without realizing it. They inherited them from their own parents, and now, unconsciously, they are passing them on. But you are here. You were called to this investigation. You felt the discomfort of this truth striking a chord within you, and that means you can choose differently. There are simple, everyday, almost invisible parenting mistakes that create overly attached children, mistakes that seem harmless, mistakes that everyone makes, mistakes that once recognized can be transformed. But what depth psychology has discovered about the formation of pathological attachment will completely change the way you look at the relationship with your child. Now look at yourself. Look honestly. How many times have you stopped your child from doing something alone because you felt afraid? Not the fear the child felt, but your own fear projected onto them. How many times have you held their hand when they were ready to walk alone, because you weren't ready to let go? How many times have you invaded their space, interrupted their play, solved their problem, not because they needed it, but because you needed to feel in control? How many times have you said yes when you should have said no, given in when you should have held the boundary, carried them when they could already walk, all to soothe your own anxiety? While you act this way, the child learns. They learn that the world is dangerous. They learn that they can't trust themselves. They learn that they need you to survive every little challenge. They learn that existing alone is threatening, and you believe you're protecting, but you're imprisoning. You believe you're loving, but you're suffocating. You believe you're caring, but you're stunting their growth. The child becomes hypervigilant to your presence because you became hypervigilant to their absence. They can't separate because you never allowed them to experience separation as something safe. They cling to you because you clung to them first, emotionally, psychically, projecting onto this little being all of your unresolved needs for connection, security, and control. Do you see the pattern? Each time you rush to comfort before the child truly needs comforting, you're teaching them they can't handle discomfort. Each time you solve a conflict the child could have solved on their own, you're teaching them they are incapable. Each time you express exaggerated anxiety in everyday situations, you're teaching them the world is more dangerous than it really is. Each time you interrupt the child's natural exploration with constant warnings of danger, you're teaching them that trusting themselves is risky, and the child absorbs it all. They have no filter. They have no formed psychic defense. They are pure receptivity. What you project onto them becomes their truth. The fear you carry becomes the fear they feel. The insecurity you never healed becomes the dependence they manifest. Are you seeing it now? Are you recognizing the moments when you've done this? Not to blame yourself. Guilt transforms nothing, but to awaken, to bring what was operating in the shadows into consciousness. Because as long as you don't recognize the pattern, you repeat it. And as long as you repeat it, the child becomes more and more attached, more and more anxious, more and more unable to develop their own inner strength. The good news? You can change this. Today. Now. Starting the very next moment you are with your child. But first, you need to understand why this happens. You need to know the psychological root of this mechanism. Because only when you see the invisible dynamic can you begin to dismantle it. A child's psyche is formed through the parental mirror. This is one of the most fundamental principles of depth psychology. A child isn't born with a ready-made identity. They aren't born knowing who they are, what they're capable of, or how the world works. They discover all of this through the reflection they receive from their parents. When a mother looks at her child with calm, the child learns the world is safe. When a father responds with presence and not anxiety, the child learns they can trust themselves. When parents allow for small falls, small mistakes, small frustrations, the child develops resilience. But when the mirror is distorted, when parents project their own unhealed wounds onto the child, something very different happens. The child begins to carry the adult's emotional weight. Imagine a garden. The child is the seed. They have within them all the potential to grow strong, with deep roots, a firm stem, and their own flowers. But if the gardener is afraid of storms, they build a glass dome over the seed. They control every drop of water, every ray of sun, every gust of air. The plant still grows, but it grows weak, dependent, unable to withstand the wind, because it was never allowed to face the wind. That is pathological attachment. It's not that the child is naturally fragile. It's that the parental environment prevents their natural strengthening. Scholars of depth psychology have identified that most parents who raise overly attached children carry three unconscious patterns. First, the projection of the anxious shadow. The father or mother has never resolved their own fears. They've never developed inner security, and they project this insecurity onto the child, treating them as if they were eternally fragile, eternally in danger, eternally in need of extreme protection. Second, emotional fusion. The adult cannot separate their own emotions from the child's. When the child cries, the parent despairs. When the child faces a challenge, the mother feels as if she herself is being threatened. There is no psychic space for the child to have their own emotional experience. Third, the narcissistic need. The father or mother uses the child to fill an internal void. The child becomes the source of meaning, the reason for living, the only place where the adult feels needed and important. And unconsciously, the parent sabotages any move toward independence by the child, because it threatens their own sense of worth. These three patterns operate together, and they create an invisible psychological trap the child naturally wants to explore, to separate, to grow. But every time they try, they receive signals that it's dangerous, that it hurts their parents, that it's not safe. So they stop, they come back, they cling, and the cycle strengthens. The more the child clings, the more the parent feels needed. The more the parent reinforces the attachment, the more the child feels they can't survive alone. The more the child depends, the more the parent is certain they are fragile. The prophecy fulfills itself. But now that you know the root, you can recognize the specific behaviors that feed this cycle. First mistake: you rush to solve the child's every discomfort before they have a chance to try on their own. The child is trying to reach a toy on a high shelf. They stretch, they try to climb, they show effort, and you, before they even ask for help, are already there getting the toy for them. You think you're being helpful, but you're teaching them that they don't need to try, that they can't trust their own abilities, that someone will always come to solve things for them. This creates deep emotional dependence. The child learns they are not capable, and they start to need you for every little thing. The attachment intensifies because they haven't developed basic self-confidence. Second mistake: you express exaggerated anxiety in common childhood situations. The child is about to climb the jungle gym at the playground. You immediately yell, "Be careful," hold them tightly, and show intense fear on your face. The child was confident, but upon seeing your reaction, they absorb the fear. They start to doubt. They look to you for confirmation before every move. You are transmitting the message that the world is dangerous and they are not equipped to navigate it. And so they stop exploring. They cling to you. Because you have become the only source of safety in a world you've painted as threatening. Third mistake. You can't tolerate seeing the child cry or get frustrated. The child is putting together a puzzle and can't fit a piece. They start to get frustrated. And you, unable to bear seeing them in this discomfort, immediately grab the piece and fit it for them, or distract them with something else, or do it all for them. You are preventing them from developing frustration tolerance. You are teaching them that difficult feelings must be avoided at all costs. And since you are always the one to remove the discomfort, they learn that they can only handle difficult emotions if you are present. Attachment becomes the only emotional regulation strategy they know. Fourth mistake. You invade the child's moments of solo play. The child is on the floor, focused, creating a story with their toys. They are completely absorbed in their imaginary world. And you, without realizing it, interrupt. You ask questions. You suggest how they should play. You join the game uninvited. Or you simply stand there watching intently, breaking the bubble of autonomy they had created. You are teaching them that they cannot be with themselves, that being alone is strange, uncomfortable, and always requires your presence and validation. And so the child loses the ability to entertain themselves, to be in their own company. The attachment strengthens because you never allowed them to discover they are capable of being okay on their own. Fifth mistake. You give in to all of the child's requests to avoid a tantrum or emotional discomfort. The child asks to sleep in your bed. You know they need to learn to sleep alone. But they cry, they beg, and you, unable to stand the emotional scene, give in. You give in every night. You are teaching them that they don't need to develop self-regulation, that there will always be an escape, that boundaries don't really exist. And every time you give in, the attachment grows, because the child learns you are incapable of keeping them safe within a structure. They cling to you precisely because you can't be firm, and this lack of firmness generates deep insecurity. Sixth mistake. You use the child to fill your own emotional needs. You've had a hard day. You're feeling lonely, anxious, empty, and so you seek out the child. You hug them intensely. You hold on for too long. You talk about your problems as if they could understand or solve them. You turn the child into your emotional safe harbor. The child feels they need to take care of you. They absorb the responsibility of keeping you happy. And this reverses the roles. They can't separate because they feel you will fall apart without them. The attachment here is not the child's to you, but yours to them. And the child carries that weight and becomes unable to individuate. Seventh mistake. You compare your child to others and express disappointment when they aren't independent enough. You see other children the same age going to school alone, sleeping alone, being calm away from their parents, and you look at your child and say, "Look how brave so-and-so is. Why can't you be like that? You're too old to be scared." You are creating shame on top of the attachment you yourself have generated. The child feels wrong, defective, but doesn't have the tools to change because you never taught them. And the shame only increases the attachment, because now, they not only depend on you emotionally, but also carry the guilt for depending on you. Eighth mistake. You don't establish predictable and secure routines. The child never knows what to expect. One day you are present and calm. The next, you are absent and irritable. One day you let them do something. The next day you forbid the same thing without explanation. The inconsistency generates deep insecurity. A child needs predictability to develop inner security. When the environment is chaotic, when there are no stable rituals, when you are emotionally unpredictable, the child cannot internalize a secure base. So they need you physically present at all times, because only your concrete presence calms the anxiety that unpredictability creates. Ninth mistake. You never talk about separations clearly and honestly. You're about to leave and you don't want the child to cry. So you wait for them to get distracted and you sneak out. Or you lie, saying you'll be right back when you'll actually be gone for a while. Or you make up complex excuses the child doesn't understand. You are teaching them that separations are traumatic and unpredictable, that you can disappear at any moment without warning. This generates intense separation anxiety because the child never knows when you might vanish again. Attachment becomes constant vigilance. They can't let you out of their sight because you have broken their trust. 10th mistake. You have never healed your own childhood wounds of abandonment and rejection. You carry within you the child who was left alone, ignored, rejected, or suffocated, and that wounded child within you is dictating how you relate to your own child. You either repeat the pattern of suffocation you experienced, or you react in the opposite extreme, creating excessive attachment to compensate for the abandonment you felt. As long as you don't look at your own history, as long as you don't integrate your own wounds, you project all of this onto your child, and they become the repository for your unresolved shadow. The excessive attachment is the symptom. The unhealed parental wound is the cause. Now that you've recognized the mistakes, now that you've seen the patterns, what do? The first practice is radical honesty with yourself. Get a journal, sit in silence, and ask yourself, where does my fear come from? What is the origin of this anxiety I project onto my child? What am I trying to control in my child that is actually my own lack of inner control? Write without a filter, without judgment. Just observe. You will discover things you didn't know about yourself. You will see that the fear you feel when your child moves away isn't about them being in real danger. It's about you being abandoned in childhood, or about you never having developed security in yourself, or about you using the child to feel important. This is the investigation that transforms. The second practice is to allow for small, daily separations. Start small. Let the child play alone in their room while you are in the living room. Don't peek. Don't call out every minute. Let them experience that they are okay on their own and that you will come back. Increase it gradually. Let them sleep in their own room. Let them go to school without you walking in with them. Let them resolve small conflicts with other children without your intervention. Each small separation is an opportunity for the child to internalize that they are capable, that the world is safe, that you trust them. And every time you tolerate the anxiety that arises in you during these separations without acting impulsively, you are healing your own pattern. The third practice is to validate the child's emotion without removing it. When the child cries, gets frustrated, or is afraid, don't rush to eliminate the feeling. Sit beside them. Say, I see you're sad. I'm here. You can get through this. Teach them that difficult emotions are a part of life, that they have inner resources to handle them, that you are present but that they are strong enough. This is completely different from solving everything for them or ignoring them. It is presence without invasion. It is support without control. The fourth practice is to create rituals for separation and reunion. When you have to leave, tell them clearly. Say, Mommy is leaving now to go to work. I'll be back after lunch. Create a goodbye ritual. A hug, a kiss, a special phrase. Something that predictably signals that you are leaving but will return. And when you come back, celebrate the reunion. Show them you came back as you promised. Reinforce their trust. Predictability heals separation anxiety. The fifth practice is to seek your own therapy or self-discovery process. You cannot give your child what you do not have. If you haven't developed inner security, you can't teach your child to have it. If you haven't healed your wounds of abandonment, you will project that onto them. Do your own shadow work. Look at your own wounded inner child. Heal what has not been healed. Integrate what has been rejected. This is not selfishness. This is parental responsibility at the deepest level. Because the greatest inheritance you can leave your child is not excessive protection. It is the freedom to be themselves. And you can only give that freedom when you have freed yourself from your own emotional chains. You have made it this far. You have looked within. You have recognized the patterns. And now you can no longer unsee it. You can no longer act automatically, repeating the same mistakes without awareness. Because now you know. You know that your child's excessive attachment wasn't born from them. It was built. And you took part in building it. But knowing this isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to free you. Because now you have a choice. You can choose in the next moment you feel the impulse to rush and solve something for your child. To pause, to breathe, and to ask, do they really need me right now, or do I need to feel needed? You can choose the next time anxiety tries to take over to recognize, this is my wound, not my child's reality. You can choose to allow the small fall, the small frustration, the small cry, knowing that each of these moments is strengthening your child, not breaking them. You are no longer the unconscious repetition. You are now the awakened observer of your own parental shadow. And that changes everything. The child will feel it. Even if you say nothing, they will feel that something has changed in you, that you are more present and less invasive, that you trust them, that you are allowing them to be themselves. And slowly, the excessive attachment will dissolve. Not overnight, not without discomfort, but it will transform into something healthy, into a secure bond, into love that allows for growth. You are offering your child the greatest gift, the freedom to individuate, the permission to become who they truly are, without carrying the weight of your projections. And you are freeing yourself too, from the need for control, from the paralyzing fear, from the emotional fusion that kept you from having your own life. This is the journey. It has no end. It has layers. Each day is a new opportunity to choose consciousness over pattern. Now I want to know, which of these mistakes impacted you the most? Which one did you recognize in yourself most clearly? Write it in the comments. Not to expose yourself, but to mark this moment of awakening, to make real this transformation that has begun in you. If you felt the courage to look at your own parental shadow during this video, like it, because that courage is rare. That courage is what breaks generational cycles. And subscribe to the channel, because this journey of conscious parenting is just beginning. Every video here is a new layer of self-knowledge. Every piece of content is an invitation for you to become the parent your child truly needs. Not the perfect parent, but the awakened parent. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos. The child within you and the child before you will thank you. Allow them to flourish. Allow yourself to flourish. The journey continues.